Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On broadcast today, I'm joined by Rachel Dahl. She's the publisher of the Fallon Post.
And on the program today, we have Nnedi Stephens. She's in the Democrat primary for Senate District 13.
On an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday. Trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're joined by our co-host today, Rachel Dahl. She's the president and publisher of the Fallon Post, and we're interviewing Nnedi Stephens, who is a Democratic activist, and after one appearance on the show, has decided to run for Democratic candidate for Senate District 13. Congratulations, I think.
I thank you so much. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
The show's good for you, isn't it?
No, I mean, I definitely love the opportunity to be able to have conversations about issues that matter. And definitely, I mean, the last time I was here talking about getting young people active and really motivated in the Democratic Party and just in politics in general, definitely is an issue that was near and dear to my heart. And so yeah, I'm happy to be back here again.
So first-time candidate.
Yes,
and
yes.
You're excited about the race?
Very excited, very excited, yeah. I know for me, I mean, I've been a community organizer for a large part of my career, and just being able to have those conversations with folks and being able to do that on a much grander scale is definitely something I'm really looking forward to.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
You know, you could have picked an easier race. I mean, you know, you're going after State Senate District 13, which was occupied by Julia Ratty. She stepped down to continue her work at the Washoe County Health Department. This was the seat that was owned by the late Senator Debbie Smith, one of my favorites. Yeah. And the opposition on the Democratic side is Skip Daly, a former Assemblyman. What does this primary mean? Is it you know, a further cleaving of the Democratic Party between the Bernie camp and the Biden camp? What do you think?
I mean, I think that for me, I mean, I've really just been focused on what I can do as a candidate, and I'm sure that all candidates say that, and I'm sure that you've heard that in different manifestations. But for me, as I mentioned beforehand, I mean, I've been devoted to connecting people with opportunities to get more civically engaged and more civically minded, and really ensuring that folks have the opportunity to make sure that their voices are heard. And so when I think about the primary, I mean, I'm focused on being able to reach out to communities who we typically don't reach out to this early on in the election cycle, making sure that they have the opportunity to be part of that discourse. And so that's really my number one focus when I think about this race. I mean, when I think about the different organizations I've worked with or campaigns I've worked for, I mean, I've knocked on these doors before. I mean, I've spoken to these people before. I've phone banked within these precincts, and so it's definitely something that I think that when I'm thinking towards the race and the primary, that I'm really looking forward to reaching back out to folks.
Okay, and that's fair enough, but you're still picking a fight with somebody who has a lot of political experience, supported by Nicole Cannizzaro and among others. Are you prepared for what this debate is going to be?
Yes, absolutely.
And what are the differences between you and Skip Daly?
So for me, I mean, when I think about my career, I mean, I've had a variety of different experiences, whether it's working in public service at the state and federal level, whether it's working as a community organizer, as I'd mentioned. I actually started my career in healthcare. My parents own a small business operating different 24-hour supported living arrangements, and so being able to see the way that social safety net is taking care of folks with physical and intellectual disabilities, and ways in which that we need to do a lot more in that respect. So from those experiences, from my campaign experiences as well, having worked on presidential campaigns all the way down, I think I present a variety of different perspectives, a variety of different experiences that I bring to the table.
So you've got grassroots down. I can feel it. I can feel it. And that's important. That's how you win races, honestly.
It is, yes.
But describe for the community who doesn't know this district, describe the district and give us the top 2 issues in your district.
Absolutely, absolutely. So within Senate District 13, it is essentially the urban core of Reno and Sparks, but after redistricting, it shifted a little bit eastward, and so now it contains a little bit more of Sparks, and no longer contains the areas immediately west of the university, as well as like the University Terrace area as well. Within this district, I mean, a lot of folks are definitely with respect to being able to provide for their families. People are still recovering from the pandemic, and so definitely number one is jobs in the economy. And then number 2 is education, making sure that folks have a quality education. I know that for me, a couple of the things I'm running on is really expanding the network of support for small businesses. I mean, my parents own a small business. That's how they put food on the table for me and my siblings, and so I want to make sure that more folks have the opportunity to do so. As well, with respect to education, making sure that we're funding education, but also how can we think in terms of the long term, and really making sure that we are fortifying the pipeline for teachers and educational staff, and really encouraging more students, especially students who might not otherwise consider those professions, to look into those and prepare for those in the future.
Okay, so let's talk about jobs, because it ain't like there's a shortage of jobs out there. I mean, we have more jobs to fill than have had for months now. So isn't it really a case of, you know, what can, if anything, the legislature do to get people to start applying for the jobs that are out there at much higher rates than they were, you know, a year ago?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's definitely a good question, because I mean, definitely to that point, I mean, there isn't a shortage of jobs, but what we're seeing, and especially for me, given that I currently work in hiring, is that like folks are looking for a job that when they're thinking about their next career move, like what exactly is going to prepare them for the next stage, and whether it's their career, whether it's their family life, and so on and so forth. And so how are we working with small businesses and with businesses that are coming into the area to provide those jobs, that provide the economic security for folks, that provide for those needs? And so those are definitely some conversations to have in the legislature this upcoming session.
Okay, and it brings up, I think, an interesting point, which is, you know, for those of us who've got a couple of years on us, we know how difficult it is to change professions. And certainly people are not staying in jobs for lifetimes or having 2 jobs over their lifetimes. We know that people are going to change jobs multiple times. Mm-hmm. But it's a very difficult thing. And how do people survive unless they have a lot of money saved up in trying to decide what the next career is, rather than, you know, seeing the jobs that are out there, the opportunities that are out there, and going for those?
Mm-hmm. And definitely to that point, I mean, I think that for folks like who are in the position where they might be living kind of more so paycheck to paycheck, it's an issue of how can we ensure that workforce development resources are available to folks so that they get that skills training, that they get that information, that they can prepare for the next point in their journey, and then move to that next job if that works better for them and their families. It's incredibly important to recognize that yeah, I mean, for a lot of folks, I mean, they may not be able to afford to quit their job and maybe go back to school for a year or two or something to that effect. And so making sure that we're providing people the opportunities for that kind of training that is accessible to them is going to be very important.
One of the things that I've seen as a small business owner and someone who tries to hire good people, or any people at this point, give me a warm body in some situations right now, it's that bad. A huge issue is childcare. At the state level, where do you see your role in this position, and what would you do to solve that childcare issue?
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is, I mean, an incredibly important issue that when we're talking about people being able to afford to go back into the job market, is, I mean, can they afford to be able to, I mean, to find a childcare solution while they're at their job? And so I think that the state level, I mean, definitely there has to be more comprehensive conversations with stakeholders at the table as to what exactly can we do, what exactly is being done, and what isn't working.
What would you like to see?
I mean, for me, I think it's just getting a sense of, especially for different businesses that are providing the childcare, is what exactly does the economic forecast look on their end? What exactly are the concerns for them, and what are the ways that maybe if it's kind of supporting them directly or finding other avenues of providing infrastructure for those businesses, how can we ensure that we're making that we're providing that affordable childcare for folks?
I think that's really important in rural Nevada, that it's so limited what's available. So if you need childcare, and I don't know as much about urban areas in the state, but in rural areas, if you need childcare, it's not available. And so at the state level, if you could look at some sort of incentive to open a daycare center, or even support for how to do that. You know, you've got moms taking 5 or 6 or 7 kids, which of course is not legal, but people need it. So you've got a demand issue, and if some kind of small business support for those folks so that they could get in a situation where they've got a real daycare instead of, you know, what do we used to call that? The black market? Black market daycare.
Oof, okay.
Right? In rural Nevada, that's a thing.
Well, and it's not that has not been around forever, because you know, people just can't afford the cost of daycare, and so, you know, whether it's urban areas or rural areas, big cities or small cities, this has been an ongoing situation for a long time. Mm-hmm. I know that my daughter, when she was raising our granddaughter, had a Hispanic woman that had a whole bunch of kids that were coming over every day, and I'm sure that they were not all the correct and appropriate certificates, but it got the job done at a price that was affordable. But it would be nice if it could be, you know, in a more regulated form. Let's take a break. We'll come back much more with Nnedi Stephens after this time. I'm here at the Carson Valley Inn in Minden with Joey Whitaker. One of the things I love about the Carson Valley Inn here in beautiful downtown Minden is CV steak. I have eaten here so many times. Tell folks what they can expect when they come here to eat.
It's a beautiful room, great service. We have certified Angus beef, seafood, lamb, a great range of appetizers, and wonderful desserts. Jean-Michel's done a great job of selecting some beautiful wines for us. The customers love it, and we've got a great selection of cocktails as well. It's not a long way to get away to the Carson Valley Inn.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Before the masks, before the distancing, before the world changed, UMC was ready. Our response to COVID-19 began before the crisis did, with our own team of infectious disease experts who've spent their careers planning for this moment. With a pandemic response plan, we'd practiced again and again, and by blazing new trails in large-scale testing, including every patient we admit. Always ready. UMC.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Nnedi Stephens, and I'm joined by my co-host Rachel Dahl, who's publisher of the Fallon Post.
So we're talking about education and how important that is at every level, getting people back in the workforce.
Yeah.
But let's talk K-12. Let's not even worry about college. Let's just talk K-12 and funding ideas. How do we fund education? Is funding even the issue?
So I'm definitely looking at some of the meetings and recommendations from the Commission on School Funding. There is a need for more funding. I mean, quite frankly. I mean, with respect to how much we're paying for education per pupil, there needs to be more creative solutions for funding those for funding those avenues. I think that for me, I mean, that's something that I'm still looking into in terms of like what exactly are the concrete policy solutions that we can implement and put forth in that regard. But that's definitely something that I'm very committed to looking into and making sure that we're providing the adequate funding for education.
Okay, so mining already stepped up to the plate with this significant contribution, but at this point, the two initiatives that we're also going to put funding towards education if mining didn't come to the table are still on the table and could get passed next year. What are your thoughts on that? And, you know, a lot of people have concerns about the amount of money that goes to education versus the results. Washoe County has very good results from the Washoe County School District. Clark County, not so much by a big margin.
And definitely to the question in terms of the two ballot initiatives. I know that the Attorney General's office has come out with an opinion in terms of saying that those shouldn't be on the ballot that's coming up.
Secretary of State kind of disagrees with that.
I recognize that. But to that point, I mean, I do recognize the intent with which those petitions were brought forward, and now the folks who are bringing that forward want to retract that. And so I think that moving forward, how can we find creative solutions to ensure that we are properly funding education is going to be very important for me.
Okay, so do you have a dollar figure? Because I mean, every time I talk to people, and I've been interviewing people from the State Education Association for 20 years, and the number is always $1 billion. We're $1 billion short, and then they get $1 billion, and then we're still $1 billion short, and it just goes on and on and on. And yet we look at the results, and we look at other states, and the amount of funding and the results from other states don't correlate. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think for me, I definitely want to defer to the folks on the Commission for school funding, as well as like folks who are working in Department of Education as to what that exact number is. I think that is definitely hard to make that kind of apples to apples comparison when you're looking at there's a school district in Massachusetts, a school district in West Virginia, a school district in Nevada. What exactly is that specific dollar amount? But we do know, especially from hearing from folks within our school districts across the state, that there is a need for much more funding, and so that's something that we need to be committed to fighting for.
As a former classroom teacher survivor, what do we do at the state level to support classroom teachers and parents? How do you brought up the achievement level, and that really is the importance. We could talk money all day, but having been in a classroom with 32 kids, trying to get them to learn Julius Caesar, what do we do at the state level to make that better?
So definitely to that respect, and this is definitely where a lot of the additional funding would have to come in, is how can we build more schools where we can? Like, how can we decrease classroom sizes recruit and retain much more teachers, and making sure that we're paying teachers a fair and living wage. I think that one of the things that for kids who might maybe think about becoming teachers or think about entering the education profession and then realize like, oh, maybe I can't necessarily afford to. That's something that should not be the reality here in Nevada. And so
that's a real thing.
It is. I mean, I remember kind of going through school and recognizing some of my teachers were paying for the whether it's the tissues out of pocket or like the book covers out of pocket, and that's not okay. And so what can we do to ensure that we're providing for those resources and making sure that teachers aren't shouldering that burden is going to be very important.
What do you feel about school vouchers?
I do not believe that we should be diverting public funds for private schools. I think that especially with respect to the program that was passed in, I believe it was 2015, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that was set up, just kind of having that like X amount of dollars like to go towards the tuition, especially for folks in of lower income, like it was an issue of like they still couldn't afford to go to those private schools, and so it was essentially subsidizing families like who could already afford to send their kids to private school. And so for me, I'm not a proponent of the voucher system.
Okay, but I mean, if you adjusted the funding formula to make sure that people that didn't necessarily have the additional funds to be able to take advantage of those vouchers, would you be okay with that?
I still wouldn't be okay with it. I think that for me, it's just on principle. I don't believe that we should be diverting public money into private schools.
Okay, and what about the area of competition? You know, a lot of these private schools, you know, seem to be getting better results than the public schools. Do you have concerns about that?
I mean, I definitely think that there are some solutions that within different private schools maybe we should be looking at in terms of how exactly they're getting those better results. I mean, I definitely think that if there's a good idea, we should share it, and we should figure out what exactly that is. And so for me, I mean, that's definitely kind of how I would seek to look at that.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be back with Nnedi Stephens, running for Senate District 13 after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. At Design Outdoor, we specialize in all hardscapes, pavers, and walls you'll need for everything, from wonderful small yards to full-blown outdoor living. And we only refer the best contractors to make your vision a reality. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and because I represent men in all family law matters, women often call me gender traitor, woman hater, and even disgusting. So why represent men and target myself with these offensive monikers? It's simple. Children with fathers in their lives are 6 times less likely to drop out of school, 15 times less likely to go to prison, and 5 times less likely to commit suicide. So ladies, you can hate me, but please love your children more than you hate their fathers.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, Rachel Dahl and I speak with Nnedi Stephens. She's Democratic candidate for Senate District 13, running against Skip Daly in the primary.
So there's so many things I could ask you, but let's switch gears just a little bit. Washoe County, lots of growth. The state of Nevada, water is always an issue. Mm-hmm. Talk about natural resources in the state and at the legislative level. How are you looking about that for your campaign?
Mm-hmm. And definitely a very, very important question. I mean, when we're talking about, definitely folks like moving into the region for the different jobs that are coming in, or even folks who maybe they live in San Francisco, Sacramento, like who because they work remotely, like they're moving into Reno because I mean, cost of living is more affordable in comparison. It's definitely important for us to be working with all the different stakeholders to ensure that there are those housing solutions for everyone, making sure that things are affordable. I think just specifically to your question in terms of natural resources, that's definitely a kind of part of the infrastructure in that question. For me, I mean, I definitely want to get a sense, and I'll quick disclaimer here in terms of kind of my background in chemical engineering. I kind of avoided the environmental engineering space, but not because it isn't worthy. I mean, definitely is incredibly important, and I definitely value the work that folks are doing in that space. And so there is a little bit more work for me to do in terms of kind of learning specifically the issues there. But definitely as it pertains to water and water's rights, that's something that that we need to be very focused about making sure that we're protecting our public lands as we work towards building more and more housing for folks. And so there are definitely some complexities that we need to figure out here.
Sure. Does it concern you that as we keep trying to move towards getting energy that is renewable, that these lawsuits keep getting filed against it, and it seems like there's a battle, you know, people want to move forward with renewables, but every time they try to, whether it's Thacker Pass or Ioneer down in the south, you name it, there's another lawsuit being filed. And in fact, there's a...
In Churchill County, geothermal.
Right, Ormat may even pull out of a project that they've invested $68 million in so far because of these legal challenges. Does that concern you? And you got about 30 seconds to answer.
I think that for me, there are reasons like why these lawsuits are being brought about. I think that with respect to the Thacker Pass that you'd mentioned, that is where
Thacker, by the way.
Sorry. Excuse me. Thacker Pass, like that is where indigenous folks are really concerned in terms of protecting the historical significance of that area. And so I think that there are definitely a lot of concerns that we need to weigh in these issues. But I think that there definitely is room for all of us to come together and find some kind of compromise here. And so I think that that's a compromise that's going to move us together.
Okay, and so is that the theme of your campaign, which is compromise is not a bad thing?
Absolutely. I think that for me, yes, I'm running in a very Democratic district, but I don't want to be a demagogue in terms of how I look to govern, because recognizing that once if I get elected, I don't want to be too presumptuous here, but I would be representing everybody in the district, and so it's incredibly important to be able to have those conversations across the aisle and with folks from different backgrounds.
And if Skip Daly will agree to it, would you debate him on the program?
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me again.
And we'll be right back.
Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hey, Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers.
We'll see you on the next broadcast.